Buongiorno and benvenuto to my patio table in northern Italy. Today I'm continuing the restoration of Zio Dino's 1986 Wilier Triestina Ramato road bike by overhauling the 6-speed Everest Nova freewheel. The journey is almost over. This is the last original component to be restored. So if you haven't already, check out the other videos in this restoration series. Links in the description box below. I originally thought this freewheel was a more common Regina model, owing to the 20-spline tool fitting which accepts the Park Tool FR4. However, after wiping away some 30-year-old grime, I could just make out the inscription Everest Nova made in Italy. Nevertheless, the disassembly procedure is the same as that of the Regina Extra and America freewheels. Unfortunately, I didn't know that when I began this disassembly, which, you'll see, led to a near-fatal mistake. The first step is to unscrew the top two, I stress two, cogs. Using two chain whips, one wrapped around the largest cog and the second around the smallest cog, as shown, twist counterclockwise. It can be very tough. Removing one cog will grant you access to the top cone, but that second cog needs to come off first. I should have squirted some penetrating oil in the threads and tried harder instead of assuming that it wasn't removable. However, while in this next section I still haven't realized that the second smallest cog is removable, the method I use to loosen the top cone is valid. I'm starting by threading the freewheel back onto the hub. In this case, the dead mica hub featured in the last video. Thread it all the way on, but don't tighten it too much. It's not going to stay on here long. Once in place, with a pair of pin spanners with 2mm tips, rotate the top cone clockwise, just enough to loosen it. If it's stuck, you can hit it with a punch, but this one didn't need that much effort. See how the freewheel body and cogs wiggle. That's as loose as you want it. Now unscrew the freewheel from the hub again, using the removal tool and adjustable wrench. Okay, now with the freewheel on its own again, I've placed it on a soft microfiber cloth. The cloth is there to help prevent me losing any ball bearings. As I now unscrew the top cone, which will free the inner body from the outer body, and all the ball bearings. Remember, I'm still blissfully unaware that the second smallest cog needs to be removed in order to remove the top cone completely. So as I finally unscrew the top cone, I am unable to lift it out to expose the top set of ball bearings, which should be removed first. Instead, I can lift the whole outer freewheel body away from the inner body, and immediately the 41 ball bearings roll off the race of the inner body, so it's highly advised to have some way of catching them. Just below the threads are a stack of washers. At the top, 2 thin ones, and then a thick one. But now I have the problem of getting to the upper bearings. So here comes the near fatal mistake I mentioned earlier. I now try a renewed effort to unscrew the smallest cog. The mistake is that nothing is holding the top cone or the ball bearings below it except for the cog that I'm trying to remove. What I should have done at this point, I think, is screw the inner body, sans ball bearings, back onto the top cone to keep them all in place. But I didn't. And here is the aftermath. Cogs, washers, outer body, and critically, ball bearings all over the patio floor. Fortunately, I didn't lose anything. I found all 31 ball bearings, making a total of 72. Now to give everything a deep clean with hot soapy water and degreaser. Here is the exploded view of this Everest Nova 6-speed vintage freewheel. This image can also be found on my Twitter and Instagram, links below. All cleaned up, it almost looks new. I don't see any wear on the cogs, though the 19 tooth has a different surface finish to the rest, which may indicate that it's been replaced. Before I start the assembly, here are a few close-up shots of the inner and outer bodies. This is the inner body, and you can see the paw and spring mechanism. It's a very simple design. To remove them, pull the paw vertically, followed by the spring, and installation is the reverse. Spring first and then the paw while holding the spring back. Notice also the level of precision of the machining work. They've caught the threads while machining the recesses for the spring and paws. It seems a bit sloppy workmanship to me. I wonder if you'd see this in a Japanese freewheel. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now here is the inside of the outer body to highlight the ratchet teeth and what appears to be some wear. So this freewheel body could be older than its cogs. Now onto the assembly. I'm going to start by practicing installing the outer or main body over the inner body. The reason is that this step can easily dislodge the lower bearings, and it's also a little tricky because of the paws. As I lower the main body, I twist it counterclockwise to retract the paws of the inner body, allowing it to slip gently into place. Easier said than done. Before adding the bearings, I'll first oil the paws and spring. I'm using wet lube, but a medium oil or other specialty lubricant would work fine too. Now to grease the bearing races. A sticky grease like Park Tools PPL1 is a good choice, and you'll see why in a moment. Not much is required, just a thick enough layer to hold the bearings. Now apply a thin layer to the race and ratchet teeth on the inside of the main body. Be very conservative with the grease here. This is more a protective layer than a lubricating one, and too much grease will interfere with the ratchet mechanism by gluing the paws shut. Now to add the 41 ball bearings. They sit on the narrow outside lip of the inner body. This is why the sticky grease helps. Pack them in side by side all the way round. A fine pick or similar is helpful to even them all out. Once they are all in place, time to gently add the outer body. Remember to rotate it counterclockwise to allow it to slip over the paws and into place. Carefully, holding both bodies tightly together, you can check that they rotate smoothly and hear the paws clicking over the ratchet teeth. Otherwise, a bearing has been dislodged or there is too much grease around the paws. Now, on go the washers. First the thick one, and finally the two thin ones. Once they are in place, I'm adding another thin layer of grease to the upper bearing race. Again, not much is needed. Now in with the final 31 ball bearings. Once they are all tightly packed together, I can screw on the top cone. There's already plenty of grease in there, so I'm not greasing the race. The top cone threads in counterclockwise. Be careful not to cross-thread it. Using the pin spanner, tighten it as best as you can. Check that the inner body spins freely and that the paws engage and release. It feels pretty draggy now, but it will free up with use, a bit like a brand new free hub. Time to add the cogs. Remember to grease the threads of the second smallest cog. It threads on clockwise. Tighten it as best as you can for now. Now thread on the final cog. Almost done. Everything is spinning smoothly, the ratchet mechanism is clicking away, and there is no play between the freewheel bodies. The two threaded cogs will tighten themselves with use, but we want them to be as tight as possible now because otherwise the spacing between the cogs will be too wide. So using two chain whips, tighten them as best as you can as shown. Job done. Time to install them on the rear wheel. So here I have the rear wheel I built in the last video. Check it out if you haven't already. Links below. I've already cleaned and greased the threads. The freewheel threads on clockwise. Be very careful to not cross-thread it. Thread it all the way down. It will also tighten itself with use. It's spinning smoothly. Perfect. With it freshly serviced, I won't have to open it up for another 30 years, hopefully. Here is this freshly overhauled Everest Nova freewheel on the bike. And before I forget, it weighs 409 grams. And here is a sneak peek and freewheel sound check after a couple dozen kilometers. That's it for this video. Comment below what you thought about it. Next time I'll be putting the finishing touches on Zio Dino's 1986 Wilier Triestina Ramato road bike. Until next time, a dopo.